Let's get started. So hello to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and welcome to the Alzheimer Society Cupcake Day Zoom event. My name is Heidi Wilkinson and I'm a fundraiser for Northamptonshire, Leicestershire and Rutland as well. As I say, please do say hello in the chat box, and if you've got questions, please pop them in the Q&A box. We love to hear about some of your Cupcake Day plans this evening, so please do feel free to share those with us. And we'd like to know what you're planning, so we always like to hear about what you've got on. A very warm welcome this evening to Joy and all of our speakers. Joy will be leading the icing demo a little bit later on. But before we get to the icing tutorial, here is the lovely Soraya.
Evening everyone, my name is Soraya Bowen. I'm a community fundraiser like my colleague Heidi, and I cover the county of Hertfordshire. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting some tips from Joy's session. But before we get into the icing tutorial, we're just going to have a short chat with our previous Cupcake Day supporters. So that's Hannah and Hazel from Hertfordshire, where they're just going to talk about their experience of fundraising from Cupcake Day. So if Hannah and Hazel can switch on their cameras, please. And have their mics on. Excellent. So let's kick off our questions. So the first question is for Hannah, and it's quite an easy one. So is this your first Cupcake Day? Cupcake Day?
Who's going to go first?
Hannah, it's you.
It's me, right, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so my first Cupcake Day was last year over lockdown. And I actually started doing it just through not working, saw a post on Facebook and thought this is going to be a really good, successful event and a great charity to support. So Facebook, thumbs up to them because they're the ones that got me into this in the first place. And so I basically did a car boot sale, but with cake. And it was a great success. So this is my second year around this year, doing the same idea on my parents' driveway. And hopefully I get some good supporters.
Thank you so much, Hannah. So my second question will be to Hannah and Hazel, but I'll kick off with Hazel. What do you enjoy the most about baking, Hazel?
Oh, how long do I have to talk? I love baking. I've baked since I was about 6 years old. I think what I love about baking is I just love being creative, and cupcakes in particular give you lots of different ways you can be creative. I love being creative about the bake itself. I like experimenting with different recipes. I have 3 vegan daughters, so when I did my Cupcake Day last year, I offered quite a range of different flavors, but I wanted to offer some vegan options as well, just to show people what's possible. And actually about a sixth of all the cupcakes I sold were vegan cupcakes, not just to people who are vegan. So that was quite exciting. That was just me spreading the joy of vegan baking. But I love being creative with the decoration as well. So I love, trying out different nozzles, different sprinkles, different things you can put on cupcakes. Because you can make them look incredibly pretty. So it is like, it's like a piece of art in a way that you can eat. And because people eat them, you get to make more. So, yeah.
That is fantastic. And the same question to Hannah. What do you enjoy about baking?
Do you know what? It was actually all in relation to Alzheimer's Society, and the reason that it was so close to my heart as a charity as well, and one that I definitely wanted to support, was because of my grandma and her passing. And my first experience with baking was always going down to Morrison's on a Sunday morning and going and buying a cupcake kit from the shop and spending the rest of the day baking with my nan. And it was just something where that was my first experience of really getting, you know, into a kitchen, enjoying just mixing up all the ingredients. And it does make me laugh, because even now I'm one of these people where I'll just throw things together and somehow it comes out okay-ish. Can't always say it's perfect, but I just have a love for experimenting. And I think it's a mixture of just being at such a young age, just messing around in the kitchen, and having the ability to also support the charity in order to do that is what just brings it all together for me. And that's why I love it.
Thank you, Hazel and Hannah, for that. I wish that my experiments in baking came out as fabulous as yours, because it's normally rock hard and inedible is normally the result of my experimentation with baking. So we're on to the final question, which is really about what, and this one I'll go to Hazel before I go back to my lovely colleague Heidi. Do you have any tips or advice for everyone here about hosting a cupcake day?
I think my first tip is just do what's right for you. So I think somebody on here said it's her 13-year-old daughter who's doing the baking. Fantastic, that's really exciting. Cupcakes are really quite accessible for anybody. So do what's comfortable for you. So whether it's baking a dozen cupcakes and selling it to sort of family, or taking it bigger, just do what's manageable. So I actually have been a professional baker. So my challenge with my cupcake day was to provide a wide range of flavors and to offer 4 vegan options as well. And I didn't know how many people were going to buy them. I advertised it on Facebook. And in the end, I sold 307 cupcakes, but that took me 15 hours solid work on a Saturday last June, which for me, that's a challenge I enjoy. And it raised a lot of money for Alzheimer's. And my dad passed away from Alzheimer's last December. So that, again, it's something that's very, very close to my heart. So that was my challenge, but what I would say to everybody is choose the challenge that's right for you. So whether it's just baking a dozen cupcakes, it's having a boot sale, it's much easier actually to bake what you can bake and then try and sell it. What I found is actually I took orders and that got quite complicated when I had 11 different options of cupcakes. And what I really found actually complicated at the end of the day was my husband was delivering some of the cupcakes and I was having some people deliver them up socially distanced from the house. And that took an awful lot longer than we anticipated. So unboxing them up actually once they were baked took a lot longer than anticipated. And because I'm used to working in a professional bakery where you can lay out 100 cupcakes at a time, what I really hadn't thought about is when you're doing a lot of cupcakes, I suddenly thought, I have nowhere to put them all. They were coming out of the oven. I had nowhere else to put these. So just kind of plan through the different stages and kind of how you're going to cope with that. And the other thing I think is if you think you're going to bake quite a lot of cupcakes, obviously practice your recipes and know exactly what you're going to do on the day, because on the day you'll be under pressure for time. But know exactly what ingredients you need to make a dozen cupcakes and also to make the icing for a dozen cupcakes. Do you know how much icing you're going to put in a swirl on a cupcake? I actually had a practice beforehand and I weighed a cupcake when I put the swirl of icing on, so I could then work out for 300 cupcakes. I knew exactly how much butter and icing sugar I was going to need. And I needed to know that because otherwise I would have run out on the day. So it's little things you can do in advance to make your day go actually a lot smoother on the day. And when you get to the day, just enjoy it. And what I was most humbled by, I think, on the day is I sold exclusively just to my friends. I don't have any family living nearby. And almost everybody we delivered cupcakes to or who came and picked them up from the door said, I'm supporting this. I'm so glad you're doing it, but I have a close relative with dementia, and those conversations had never opened up before. And actually, so doing this Cupcake Day opened up a lot of conversations with friends about close family that they had with dementia, and that was quite humbling, actually. So yes, enjoy your days, and anything I guess that anybody can raise is all going to be gratefully received.
And Hazel, thank you so much for your top tips. That was very insightful. I have a question in the chat box for Hannah, which I think is only right just to read out before I hand over to my colleague Heidi. This is from Denise Turner. She says, "Hi Hannah, great idea. Can I ask how much you raised, please? And did you make all the cakes yourself?"
Yeah, so last year, the bake sale, I raised, oh gosh, you're picking my brains now. Was it 200? I think it was 222 was the figure.
Very precise. I was going to say it was 230, but we'll go with
it. And yes, I did bake them all myself in a 1-bedroom flat, which was a challenge, but I did it. I didn't really know, and the one thing I think I would say to anyone, just like Hazel, pre-planning, I did the typical, I'll wing it, I'll do it near the time, and I think I baked about 150 cupcakes and a mixture of brownies, blondies. I think I had scones. I went down to M&S and bought sandwiches. Who knows why I did that, because I was selling cakes, but anyway, I wanted to raise even more. And it was just one of those situations where you need to pre-plan and know exactly what your quantities are. And that's actually a question that I would put forward to the team, as to, if you are doing your Cupcake Day again, the marketing side of it and the preparation, how is everyone planning on doing it? And I guess, Hazel, you would be a good person to ask this year, if you're doing it again, how are you going to pre-plan? And if you said you did pre-orders last time, are you cutting that out this time, and are you just going to do everything kind of as you go, or how are you planning on doing it? Because I think that's the way I'm going to do it, without pre-ordering.
Really sadly, I'm not doing one this year, not because I don't want to, but I do volunteering for Girl Guiding, and we're in the middle of a huge recruitment campaign. So it's just not time, because it's literally become a full-time job. So I'm not doing it this year. I shall certainly do it again. I think personally, I would choose, when I do it again, to do the pre-orders, just because from myself, I like to kind of know what quantities I'm dealing with. Last year, I was being very cautious. I wasn't going out to the shops at all. So I needed to know what quantities I needed, because I was ordering it and having it delivered from a catering firm and also from the local supermarket. So I needed to know in advance. And if I got anything wrong, I was going to be quite stuck. But that's why I say I think it's quite important that people do what's comfortable for them, because you and I've obviously kind of done it quite differently, but that's what worked for each of us. And I don't think there's a right way to do it, except what works for yourself. So if anybody's doing it for the first time, start small. Next year you can see what worked and sort of build that up. But I simply put it on my Facebook last year, saying this is what I'm selling. I charge £2.50 a cupcake, which is maybe a bit more than some people do, but I was making them in muffin cases. If you're going to the bother of making them, I sort of reckon I might as well make bigger ones. Doesn't take any more time, charge a little bit more, and then you can kind of raise as much money as possible. So I rose, I think, £784 I managed to raise, which, I mean, I was just blown away by. But again, that was some people gave a bit more than what I was charging for the cupcakes, because they wanted to support the cause, and it certainly got people talking about it. But yes, so again, you've got to find a way for marketing it that works for you. as it happens at the beginning of lockdown, when everybody said, there's no flour or sugar left in the country. And I thought, with the catering background, I thought there is flour and sugar there, just not in the supermarkets. It must be in catering bags, but all the restaurants and hotels were closed. So I actually sourced catering size sacks of flour and sugar, and I bagged it in smaller bags, and I supplied my friends with flour and sugar, and got some people baking who had never been baking before, which was just lovely. So we'd already opened up the conversation about baking. So I think that helped me when I then, because I advertised that I was doing that just to my own friends on Facebook. So I think when it came to the Cupcake Day, that played in my favor, because I'd opened up that conversation about baking. People already had an interest, and I think that helped people probably see my post. It helped the algorithms, and people were keen to support. But it for the first, I gave people a deadline 5 days before the Cupcake Day to give me their orders. And for the first few days, nothing happened. And I thought, oh, nobody's interested, but if that's it, so be it. And then, as often happens in the sort of the day or two before that I'd sort of given a deadline, and the orders flooded in, and my husband said, you can't take any more. And I said, it all raises more money. And I just about managed, but I could not have done any more than 307 in a day. And I would question doing that many again. So again, yeah, do what works for you.
Well done you, though.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to say thank you so much to Hazel and Hannah. You've provided us with great insight to why you're supporting us, and insights into your Cupcake Day at a time when there was lockdown and a lot of challenges. But what we need to do now is just move on to the next section. Any further questions or queries, just put them in the chat box so that we can address them at the end of the session. And over to you, Heidi.
Oh, thank you. That was brilliant. Thanks so much, Hannah. Thanks so much, Hazel. That was really interesting, and lots of information, hopefully some ideas and tips for people and their own events as well. So before we go to Joy for the icing tutorial, we've got a quick poll for you all. Can I just ask you all how you are feeling about your icing skills? And there's something that's just going to pop up on the screen in front of you. So if you'd just like to pick one of the radio buttons that's there, that would be amazing. Thank you. Just so we know, how are you feeling about your icing skills? So for me, my own icing skills are pretty much non-existent. So I'd go with not very confident at all, really. So I'm really looking forward to Joy's demonstration to help me with that, hopefully get some ideas and some inspiration and skills. So while you're doing that, a little bit about Joy. Oh, that was quick. Okay, that's great. So not very, we've got 55% at not very, not at all like me, 18%, quite good, 18%, and very, 9%. Oh, we've got some confident people out there too. That is fantastic. Okay, that's brilliant. So Joy is passionate about food and nutrition and has worked in the food industry for over 25 years. She's written food features and recipe books and styled food for commercials and magazines. She's also written many a cupcake recipe for Alzheimer's Society over the past 3 years. So over to you, Joy.
Thank you very much, Heidi. What inspiring talks to listen to, amazing. I'd love to talk to you all a lot more because it all sounds very inspiring. Yes, I'm actually a registered nutritionist. I don't know how I got to be talking to you about cakes. I should be talking to you about not eating cakes, but as it's for a very good cause, that's absolutely fine. And just to pick up on what Hazel mentioned about being prepared and pre-planning, I mean, that's the sort of thing I would talk about as a nutritionist with everyday meals anyway, but certainly something like this, if you want to have a more relaxing day and make as much money as possible, pre-planning is definitely something you really need to think about. And I would say, you know, practice your recipes before, decide which recipes you're going to do. If you're going to get people to pre-book, then that's even easier. There's lots of recipes on the Alzheimer's website. I know because I've done lots of them over the years. So there's vegan, there's raw, there's everything you can imagine. And if there's not, then ask us and I'm sure we can come up with one. But certainly practicing the recipes at least once so you know how it works, how you're going to make it in advance, whether you're going to freeze it. That was one question somebody asked, is it possible to freeze? Some cupcakes, they are possible to freeze. Sometimes it depends what the container that they're in, so the paper, if it's a good quality or not. Sometimes I put some in earlier and the paper's a little bit frilly, so it comes away from the paper. So the foil ones are pretty good. The other ones are quite good are these silicone cupcake cases. They come in lots of different colours. They're quite good for freezing. You can also, if you don't want to keep them in a cupcake case, you can peel them off very easily, so you can have them on their own once they're iced. So freeze them in those, then peel them off, put them back in the freezer, and then you can take them out and ice them without paper cases if you want to. Another thing that Hazel mentioned is about a muffin tin or a cupcake tin. And I know a lot of people get confused sometimes when they're following a recipe online as to whether it is, what is a cupcake, what is a fairy cake, what is a muffin? And I think it has got blurred over the years. So originally, a fairy cake would have been that. So quite a small, what we would call a bun tin originally in my grandmother's day, I'm sure. And then suddenly we all started going to muffin tins, which are what we would class now as a cupcake. So when you're looking at a recipe, just be careful, look at the picture, not that the picture always shows what's being made, but you know, that's the difference in size. So you may find that you've got too much mixture because you've used the smaller tin, or you haven't got enough because they've used a muffin tin and haven't actually mentioned it. So just, you know, be aware of that. And that's why I would say definitely practice in advance. So I'll put those out of the way. So the other thing to talk about is all the equipment. People, you know, ask about which nozzles are best for this, which icing bags, and to be honest, what I'd like to do is to show you how to ice without any icing bags or nozzles, just to have a little bit of fun. And, you know, like Hazel said, experiment, play, don't always stick to a recipe. Just play, and that's the whole point of pre-planning and making them in advance. Means you can play and have a little bit of fun just to see what works. Now, if you want to go the whole hog, you obviously can get a proper icing bag, all the different nozzles. There's so many different types, different shapes. The other thing you can do is you can get a roll of icing bags that you tear these off and then you dispose of them once you've used them. They're quite good. Obviously, they're plastic, so it's something to think about. Well, they're silicone. You can buy just plain silicone ones, which can be washed if you want to wash them. But what I'd like to show you is how to use a Ziploc bag. Because we've all got those. We haven't necessarily all got icing bags all the time, but we have all got Ziploc bags, hopefully, in the cupboard. So this is a really fun way to do a little bit of icing. Now, the other thing to think about is your icing, and on a hot day like today, how wet is it? So you want to make sure that it's firm and it's going to stay where you put it, basically. We don't want to have icing running off our cupcakes. So ones I prepared earlier just to show you. This is with a plastic bag. This one is with a knife. So we don't even need a plastic bag. So we'll start off with the ones with a knife. So I'm going to get one little cupcake. And we're going to do what I call a flat top. I'm using easy icing because I had to make so much. I wouldn't normally do that for eating. So with a knife, put on a lot of icing, a lot more than you think you need. So just with a plain butter knife, if you got it, so without the serrated edge. And then push it right to the edges. So this is where you can fill in any gaps, if there are any, between your cake and the paper casing. I know it's a bit of a long way away for you to see, but I will hold it up to the camera once I've done it. Okay, then we flatten the top. Clean your knife off each time you do it. And then with a clean knife again, go around the outside. This is great if you've got something that you want to put on the top. So like a normal cake that you would ice and then put something on the top. This is a similar thing. Okay, so we've got nice edges. And then again, I'm going to smooth off the top. Now it's just a really simple shape. And if you want to, just to make it a little bit prettier, have a little dish of sprinkles and dip the edges in the sprinkles. Now you've got a nice straight edge, the sprinkles will stick. And there you have just a pretty little, very simple, but without having to have an icing bag, just with a knife. The other one you can do with a knife, again, is maybe have 2 different colours icings. So I'm going to have a white or creamy colour and a pink. And again, straight onto the cupcake. And it doesn't matter if you mix these up a little bit. So we want to be a little bit wild with this one. I think a lot of cupcakes are very smooth and perfect, and I quite like them a little bit rustic. Okay, and depending on how soft your icing is, you can either make it crumbly, another little bit of pink in there, or like the one I did earlier, you can do spiky. So again, crumbly or spiky. Very simple, just without using an icing bag. But now we will go on to, let me just check the time because we're on a tight schedule here. Okay, I've got 1 minute. I'm going to do one very quick one. Okay, Ziploc bag. Put a piece of sellotape across the corner. So you've got one corner here, sellotape across there. This is just to make sure it's a little bit stronger. I don't always put the sellotape on, but you can if you wish. So, and the easiest way to get the icing, put your bag over a cup. So it's got a little bit of a cup down there, and we're going to put the icing in. I'm going to use this one. And just use your thumb or your finger to push it down. I've got a corner, it's got the sellotape in it. We'll push it down there. Always push it down. Don't put too much in at one time because sometimes it's quite hard work. But squeeze it nice and tight. Now, before I cut that corner, I'm going to do another different type of icing with a cocktail stick. I'm going to prick about 6 holes in it. Actually, I did 8. And then literally squeeze. This is spaghetti icing. Ooh! Now that's not meant to happen, okay? That's not a very strong bag. Make sure you've got strong bags. But that's what you get is spaghetti icing. Okay, so another very simple idea. Okay, I'm out of time, so I'm going to hand back to, I think it's back to Heidi, and I will do some more in a minute.
Oh, thanks, Joy. These are great. I'm logging all these away for later. I'm going to try them all out. This is brilliant. Thank you so much. It's just really, we're just pausing the demonstration for a moment, just so that you have a chance to write any questions that you might have in the Q&A box. I know we've got one in there at the moment. And also just to give you a quick reminder, really, that if you haven't already signed up to run a cupcake but you would like to, there's still time to do that. You can certainly register your event on the Alzheimer Society website, and there's going to be a link in the chat box too that you can click, and it'll take you straight to Just Giving page and how to set that up. So your fundraising helps Alzheimer's to invest in things like vital research on dementia and to provide information and support to people who are living with or affected by dementia. So Q&As then. We have one from Beth Joy. Can you pre-prepare your frosting and keep it in a fridge or freezer?
I've never frozen it, but I have kept it in the fridge. Yeah, that's absolutely not a problem at all. You will have to take it out and let it warm up because it will be very hard. So you have to let it warm up before you can use it for icing. But no, I haven't tried the freezer. Hazel may know because she sounds like an expert to me.
That's brilliant. Beth says thank you for that. There's a few people in the chat just saying they're definitely going to give it a go. It's great to see that you don't need to have an icing bag to get such cute looking cupcakes. Although I quite like the spaghetti icing. I haven't tried that before. That looks really good.
The bag is not meant to burst when you do it though. Make sure you get
It's live. It's live. It's not one prepared earlier. Another question for you. Why do my cupcakes end up with a lump in the middle after baking?
a lump in the, as in a lump going up in the middle. I assume that's what you mean.
Yeah, I think it's a mound.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't really matter because you can always cut it off. You can always make butterfly fairy cakes, if anyone remembers those from years ago. It could be that you're baking a little bit too quickly. You're not using self-raising flour, I would imagine. You don't need to use self-raising flour because you want them to be flat. But if it, yeah, I would just say cut it off. You're going to cover it with icing anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay, I've got one from Anya. What's an easy cake recipe? You got one that you keep going back to?
Well, the simplest is a sponge. So that's all fairy cakes or cupcakes are really. So just a normal sponge, like a Victoria sandwich. Just use that as your base, and then you can add any flavour you like. So make the normal sponge mixture. You can add grated lemon for a lemon cake, grated orange for an orange cake, some cocoa powder for a chocolate cake. It really is that simple. I worked years ago, I worked as a chalet girl, and we had to make cakes every single day for all the people that were skiing. And every day we made the same cake, just put different flavours in and put it in a different shaped tin. And it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, obviously there's a lot more complicated recipes, and we've got loads of recipes on the Alzheimer's website that you can go to. But for a very basic one that you know you can just go back to again and again and it will always work, that would be my recommendation.
Brilliant, thank you. Just checking to see if there are any more. I think that's it for now, Joy. So if we can carry on to the second half of the icing tutorial, please.
Hey, perfect. Right, I've just done another bag in the hope that this one's not going to burst. And again, I'm going to put that corner into the glass and push it down. And this time I will use some chocolate icing. Actually, no, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a bit of both. So I'm going to have a little bit of chocolate in one side. Try and keep it on one side. And then a little bit of butter icing on the other side. And this will give us a nice ribbon effect, hopefully. And again, you can cut your bag in any shape you like. You can cut it to match a nozzle. So you can cut it straight across, which will give you a ribbon. You can cut it across, then refold it and cut it again, and that will give you more of a just a round. You can cut a star shape. So if you cut two little cuts into your corner, then fan it out and cut again, you'll have a little star shape. So you can have all the shapes that you would normally have with your nozzles. Okay, so this time, fingers crossed, doesn't burst. So I'm just going to cut straight across, very simple, which will give a sort of ribbon effect. Okay, and squeeze it tight. Get your cupcake. And it's so effective, yet so simple. So you're getting two-tone, chocolate and vanilla, just by using a plastic bag. It's that easy. But, you know, as we said, don't just follow me. Experiment, cut some different shapes into your plastic bag, and, you know, you may come up with something completely wild and different. I think using colours is really nice, though. And one thing you can do, so I've got lots of different icing bags here. Let's try we'll go for a bigger star. I'm going to try and do a marbled effect. So we're just going to put in 3 different colours. And again, it's, you know, just play. We all want to have a play. That's what we're here for, playing. That's what cake should be about. And, you know, as Hazel and Hannah said, it's great fun to be baking and making lots of money, but mostly it's because we want to be in the kitchen making a mess, a nice mess. Okay, so we've got 3 different colours in there now. I would normally lick my fingers, but obviously in a demo I can't. And I've got the nozzle I've got a star nozzle, so quite an open star. And you can use these 2 different ways. And you know, again, the same with every nozzle. You can go round and round. You can do little dollops, but I'll show you one going round. So again, squeeze nice and hard. Hopefully, all 3 colours. Oh, only just coming out at the end. Let me do another one with some stars. So that was going round and round. Now you could just do a little star. And you can use as many colours as you like. And obviously, if you're making the icing, you can also do different tones. So when you're putting your colouring in, do some really dark, some really light, sort of an ombre effect. Okay. Another way to do colours is, and I'm going to use one of these plastic bags. What I might do, they're quite big, and I think that's quite a handful, so I would cut the top off. Is you put one colour around the outside of the bag, and then another colour in the middle. So again, just giving you a different effect. And this is just a plain nozzle I've got in here. So I'm going to put white around the outside. I might do it with a spoon. So put a bit in and then spread it around. It is quite messy. It seems quite messy to do this. So you've got white around the outside, and then I'm going to put the pink, I think, in the middle. So you should get a sort of hydrangea effect. Okay. So I've just got a plain nozzle on this one. And I would say, if you are going to, if you like using nozzles and you want to, learn more about, there are so many tutorials online using every single nozzle. So what I did is order a little box like this, and it comes with about 10 different nozzles. And you look at them and you think, what on earth will that do? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to start playing. So just get a load of cupcakes, get a load of icing. Actually, you don't even need the cupcakes. Get the icing and just do it on a board. Do a squiggly line so you find out exactly what it does. That's the only way to learn, really, is you can watch me or you can read a book, but actually just playing yourself is the best way to do it. So now we've got a sort of marbled effect, where we've got pink and white coming in together. And again, you can go round and round, or you can do little splodges. There's no rules, no cupcake rules in this world. See, these are the sort I like, they're a bit mad. Just go a bit crazy. I like a little bit of wormage on my cupcake. Okay, I think I'll probably run out of time again. So I will hand back to Heidi.
Thanks, Joy. That's so fascinating to watch you do that, and you really make it look easy. I wouldn't think of half of those, honestly. And as soon as you got the chocolate out, I was very excited because chocolate is my definite weakness. So I definitely want to try those two-tone ones out as well. I've just got a question in the Q&A for you. What is the best, or maybe your favourite, frosting recipe?
Ooh, I suppose the old-fashioned butter, icing, sugar, and whatever flavour. I mean, I love lemon. I chocolate or lemon. I either go citrus or really deep chocolatey. But it would be just very simple butter and icing sugar.
Lovely. It's making me hungry watching you ice all those cakes as well. We had a question. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, if you make your own, then you can control. I find these are a little bit wet. Whereas if you make your own, you can make it as stiff as you like. So you've got more control over it if you make your own.
I did notice you got a mixture there. So the pink ones that you've got in the tub, is that one you've done? Because it's in a clear tub. And then I recognise some of the other tubs you got there.
These were, I wanted to try these. These came as a pair, but they're a different texture again. And that's why I would say, if you are going to use something like this, really, really practice first, because these were quite wet. I put them in the fridge and they still haven't hardened that much. So if you're doing your cupcake day and it's a really warm day, you need to know whether it's going to hold or not. Whereas if you make it yourself, you've got more control over it. But that's something I would definitely practice in advance.
Definitely your suggestion of having a play and practicing in the kitchen is a good one. I definitely will be following that myself. Terry is asking, what is the best vanilla essence to use?
Let me show you. This is the one I use, vanilla. So I use vanilla bean extract, which is a little bit stronger and probably a little bit more pure. So you need less of it. You can see that.
Lovely.
I think it came from Tesco's or Sainsbury's. I think they all do it actually. Taylor and Coleridge.
Fabulous. And I think there's another question with regards to quantities. I'll just quickly, I think Hazel's replied to this one. It was how many quantities of bits do you need to ice 300 cupcakes? So Hazel has messaged and said, I use a total of 8 kgs of icing sugar and 4 kgs of butter to ice 300 cupcakes. That sounds massive, doesn't it? But it will vary depending on how big an icing swirl you'll give each cupcake. Makes sense. So as she also says, it's good to practice yourself, and then you'll know in advance. So question from Denise, would love to make forget-me-nots. Any ideas on what sort of nozzle we could use for that?
Forget-me-nots as in the flower?
Yeah.
I would suspect you probably would use a petal nozzle, which I've got here somewhere. I've got so many nozzles laying here. It's a bit like that, if you can see it. So it's sort of a bit thicker at one end and thinner at the other. And again, you can do it with a Ziploc bag. All you would do with a Ziploc bag is cut literally a very short piece from there to there. And that gives you, that's a good way to make a petal. And you can either do a flat petal, so you can do it literally as if you're looking down on it flat, or you can make them stand up, but that's probably the best nozzle to use, I would think, for that. I was trying to think what a forget-me-not looks like, but that would be a normal flower nozzle.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Well, thank you so much, Joy. That was absolutely brilliant. We're going to bring up a second poll now to see how people feel about their icing skills now that they've seen your tutorial and they've had to think about how they could do it. So the second poll should be up on screen soon. And then if you'd like to all let us know how confident you feel now.
And are we going to see some pictures, more to the point?
Please do share your pictures. If you've got pictures of cupcakes that you've decorated, cakes you've decorated, we would absolutely love to see them. And you can do that at a later date as well on the Facebook page. Yeah, the link to the group has just been shared in the chat if anyone's not already a member. It's great because you get to see what everybody's doing and they're sharing all the photos of the cakes. It's really, really good for inspiration as well. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's amazing. So now we've got 67%, so they're feeling quite confident. 32% say very, and no one says not very or not at all. So that's amazing. Thanks, Joy. That's a great impact.
Great news.
Fabulous. I think the next part of the section is we're going to introduce you to Michelle, who will also be sharing about her cupcake day and also her dementia diagnosis. So Michelle, are you with us?
Yes, I've sent a photo, I think, but I don't know what I've done.
I can see a photo. I can see a photo of some amazing looking cakes. Yeah, I can see them there.
Right, not that. Yeah, right. Sorry about that.
They were great. Welcome, welcome, Michelle. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I'm 58 year old with vascular dementia, and I'd just like to say well done to everybody that raises money for Alzheimer's. Without them raising money, people that's got the dementia wouldn't, be helped in any way possible like we are. And it's vital that we do raise funds. I personally raise funds as much as I can. Like I said, I'm 58. I was diagnosed when I was 56 of vascular dementia. I was told I couldn't work anymore. Since then, I've opened my own cafe. I am a professional chef. The baking side, I taught myself, and I'm now training up my daughter to carry it on when I'm not here anymore. Because like with all dementia, you don't know how long you've got. They give you an idea, but, it's decline. And that's where, you start to lose all the knowledge that I have made up over 40 years of working in the catering industry. So like I said, I've just opened, well, last year during lockdown, I opened a small little takeaway, and we went in the direction lockdown pushed us, which was like doing afternoon tea boxes and cakes, which was not what I intended to do. Since then, in February this year, I opened a sit-down cafe, and we opened for people to sit in for the very first time 2 weeks ago, which was fantastic. I used the cafe myself to raise the funds for dementia. I have my cupcake day is usually for the full month, and any proceeds we get from cakes that we sell, we donate that money. And usually for drinks as well, if we sell any drinks, we donate that money as well that goes along with the cakes. Like I said, I've got my daughter working beside me doing that now, because I do sometimes forget what I'm supposed to be doing. But she's picked it up extremely well, even though she's a trained car mechanic, and it's a big jump from messing with the car to baking cupcakes and celebration cakes and everything that she's doing at the moment. So we'll be having our cupcake, like I said, month starting when we open the cafe back up, open tomorrow. And I'll get all my banners up and everything to tell everybody that any cakes they do purchase, they will be donating to